Today, we're diving deep into the profound and honestly wildly misunderstood neuroscience behind emotional numbness. We're going to unpack exactly why our minds sometimes just switch off. If you've ever felt totally disconnected from the world around you, or maybe you've wondered why someone you know seems emotionally absent even though they're functioning perfectly well on paper, well, you're in exactly the right place. We are going to explore what's known as the biological mercy of dissociation. So let's kick things off with a pretty heavy but absolutely crucial question. What actually happens when remaining present becomes literally too dangerous to survive? We're talking about those extreme moments when emotional exposure becomes completely inescapable. Now, this could be through overt trauma, right, like violence or severe terror, but it can also happen through chronic, quiet unpredictability. Think prolonged neglect or an environment of constant relational fear. Our nervous system is always running in the background, constantly monitoring our environment. So we really have to ask, what happens when it decides that staying fully present is just no longer a viable option? And that brings us to this concept of the self that's shut down. When your nervous system hits this unbearable threshold, it kicks off a quiet, almost invisible process. It doesn't always happen with some dramatic, movie-style collapse. Actually, more often than not, something inside simply begins to shut down, bit by bit. The person is still right there, they're breathing, they're walking around, but the psychological self takes a massive, crucial step back. So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, the signs of this shutdown can really sneak up on you. We're talking about increasing emotional numbness, just sort of moving through life on autopilot, mechanically. Joy becomes muted. Emotional presence is really inconsistent. You might have foggy or unreal memories, or even feel like your own body is physically far away from you. And because this onset is so creeping and silent, so many people interpret these experiences completely wrong. They truly believe they're fundamentally broken. As they gradually lose touch with their joy and their own physical reactions, they internalize the whole thing as a personal failure. If you have ever felt guilty just for feeling empty, this is exactly why.
Okay, if you take away nothing else from this today, please hear this massive paradigm shift. Dissociation is not a dysfunction, it is protection. This numbness, it's not a failure, it's not a character flaw or some kind of emotional defect. It is actually a brilliant emergency adaptation to intolerable activation. Your body literally reaches a point where feeling anything at all becomes way too dangerous. And so, the nervous system makes an automatic, split-second choice for distance instead. Moving on to section 1, let's take a look at the hierarchy of survival. Trauma researcher Stephen Porges breaks this down perfectly. He points out that our nervous system actually handles danger in a very specific hierarchical order. Under normal, everyday stress, we start with social regulation. We look around for connection and reassurance from others. If that doesn't work, we bump up to step 2, fight or flight. Your heart rate spikes and you mobilize for action. But what if you're a child who literally cannot leave a home, or you're trapped in a situation where fighting or escaping is impossible? Well, that's when we hit step 3. The nervous system drops into a primitive shutdown. It is exactly like a circuit breaker popping in your house to save the entire electrical system when a massive power surge hits.
Right, so this biological circuit breaker actually has a name. It's called the dorsal vagal complex. It's a shutdown system located deep within your autonomic nervous system, which is the part of you that runs all the automatic stuff, like breathing and your heart rate. And it's directly associated with immobilization, collapse, freezing, emotional numbing, and dissociation. When action completely fails you, this specific biological circuitry just takes the wheel. It actively slows your heart rate and dulls your sensory experience. And I really want to stress this point. It happens entirely without your conscious choice. You don't just decide to dissociate. Your nervous system decides for you to ensure you survive. Which means numbness is profoundly biological. It's not just some mental avoidance trick. During this state of unbearable overwhelm, the body actually releases endogenous opioids. Basically, it floods your system with its own built-in, heavy-duty painkillers. It's the exact same biological mechanism that makes an animal play dead when it's caught by a predator. And that is exactly why dissociation is described in scientific research as one of nature's small mercies. Your biology is literally drugging your system to protect your mind from fully absorbing an experience that would otherwise completely destroy it. And that takes us right into section 2, leaving the body. Here we hit depersonalization. It's this wild, incredibly disorienting phenomenon where a person basically observes themselves from a distance. You feel unreal, emotionally absent, or totally disconnected from any bodily sensations.
Just think about why this happens. When your physical body becomes associated with violation, extreme pain, or inescapable helplessness, remaining fully embodied inside it feels incredibly unsafe. So what does the nervous system do? It actively distances the mind from the body just to maintain your psychological survival. Just listen to this chilling account from a trauma survivor. They said, "I left my body at that point. I was over next to the bed watching this happen." I mean, it hits the nail right on the head, doesn't it? Leaving the body psychologically can literally be the absolute only escape route available when your physical agency completely collapses. The body is essentially saying, look, if I cannot physically leave this room right now, I am going to psychologically leave this room. But here's the catch. This incredible survival tactic, it comes with a massive price tag down the road. As psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk so famously put it, the body keeps the score. The traumatic experience lives on physiologically, way long after the actual event ends. And this creates a really devastating paradox for survivors, because the very mechanism that successfully helped you avoid bodily pain during the trauma is the exact same mechanism that is now restricting your aliveness, your pleasure, and your intimacy in everyday safe life. Let's explore this further in Section 3, Functional Freeze. This is where it gets really tricky in everyday life. Think about the stark difference between the outside and the inside here. Externally, people in a functional freeze look fine. They're maintaining jobs, answering emails, navigating their daily routines, appearing incredibly competent to everyone around them. But internally, it's a completely different story. They are emotionally muted, deeply disconnected, utterly exhausted, and experiencing the world in this bizarre, dreamlike state. And society frequently misunderstands dissociation because of this exact contrast. An individual can remain externally super high functioning, while internally they are experiencing profound existential loneliness and absolute absence. So, how do we heal? That's Section 4, the return to feeling. The whole shift really begins when we move away from self-condemnation and lean hard into self-compassion. Instead of beating yourself up and asking, why can't I just feel normally? Which, let's be honest, only breeds more shame. We have to start asking, what was this numbness protecting me from? Reframing this whole experience with deep, genuine compassion is vital. See, shame actually intensifies dissociation because it makes your internal world feel even more unsafe. But shifting to compassion, that stops the cycle. It allows survivors to slowly, gently, and relationally rebuild their capacity for presence without re-traumatizing their nervous system all over again. Because here is the real tragedy of it all. The very thing that provided protection eventually became a form of imprisonment. But you have to realize that the self that shut down was never ever trying to destroy your life or ruin your ability to connect. It was doing the exact opposite. It was going to extraordinary, brilliant biological lengths to preserve your life, even if that meant disappearing for a little while. So I want to leave you with this final, profound question to really chew on. What was this numbness protecting me from? Whether you are exploring this topic for your own healing or you're just seeking to understand a loved one a little better, I really want you to carry this with you. Reflect on the incredible, merciful, biological lengths the human body will go to in order to survive the unsurvivable. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you for watching. If something in this resonated with you, then you're already closer than you think. If you're ready to go deeper, there's a link below to my book, The Survival Self: How Childhood Adaptation Becomes Adult Identity, and How to Finally Live Beyond It. This isn't theory, it's a framework you can actually use. Tap the link below and step into it.